Good morning. My name is James Herlan. I'm a master's student at the City College or the City University of New York. Um, and I'm going to present some initial data on the coral reefs of American Samoa and some of the bleaching data during a bleaching episode of 2015. So I was given a data set by NOAA, by the Pacific Islands Fishery Science Center. Their benthic survey between 2010 and 2018. As I said, there was a bleaching episode in 2015. So that's the data I'm going to present today. And I'm going to target one of the five islands, Tutuila. And I'm also going to just present data at the shallow sites. So data was collected at shallow, mid, and deep reefs. Again, I'm just going to present information from these 26 sites that were collected at the shallow sites in 2015. So just the background, corals, here's a photo of two different morphologies of reef building corals. Corals are cnidarians. They're closely related to jellyfish and sea anemones. They consist of hundreds of thousands of these of polyps that grow together that secrete calcium carbonate. That's how corals grow their skeleton. That's how they grow to form a reef. Is a picture of a polyp. These polyps have an endosymbiotic relationship with these microscopic zooxanthellae. And these zooxanthellae provide nutrients. They provide organic organic carbon to the coral host so that the corals can eat autotrophically. The data that I was given by NOAA that I'm doing my master's project on consists of coral cover. So you can think of coral cover as the aerial coverage or the proportion of live coral that takes up a certain area. So if you imagine this blue box as your reef survey plot, you can kind of estimate that there's about 50% of live coral cover within this plot. Second, I have data on bleaching prevalence. And bleaching prevalence is the proportion of individual coral colonies that are bleached, that show some sort of bleaching within your survey site. So the two questions that I'm aiming for graduate school include, does significant wave height affect coral cover and diversity in American Samoa? And did the interaction of sea surface temperature and significant wave height affect coral bleaching at American Samoa during the 2015 bleaching event? I do have significant historic significant wave height data from USGS. Significant wave height is just defined as the average 1/3 of wave heights in a certain area. So, I have data that looks like this. This is a map of Tutuila showing higher significant wave height on the north coast rather than the south coast. However, this data, there's like 500 different combinations. This just shows the first 8. There's actually 500 different combinations that optimize wave conditions that I have to go through in order to extract statistics like mean and my min and max. So I haven't done that yet, but I'm in the process of that. Before I go into my initial results, just a little bit about the ecology of corals in general. Corals have different life history strategies that often correlate to their morphology. And so, for example, you can have competitive species or opportunistic species on a reef. You can kind of think of if you have a coral reef that goes through some type of disturbance where all the corals die. You're going to have your opportunistic species, such as your Poeciloptera, coming in first to settle on the reef surface. But over time, these opportunistic species are going to be outcompeted by your more competitive species. And when that happens over time, this kind of this kind of tug of war between the two different types, that's how you kind of have diversity on a reef. Again, you have a lot of different functional morphologies of coral, especially on Pacific reefs. These corals, they grow together, they interact, and then the result is kind of these emergent spatial properties where you have these different spatial dispersions of coral around a reef, often correlated with environmental variables like wave energy. And you can go into and ask all these nice theoretical questions in ecology regarding intra- and interspecific variability and coexistence, especially on isolated wave dominated islands in the Pacific. So my first question, does the coral community structure differ around the coastline of Tutuila? I was able to categorize my data into 5 different morphologies that make up 25 coral species. And using just putting that data through clustering of those sites at that shallow, in the shallows of Tutuila, it shows kind of difference in the way that the coral community is structured geographically around the island. On the left side, these green lines in this dendrogram are the northern coast, and then the blue and the purple are the south coast of Tutuila. So again, this is just kind of a rough estimate. This is my data exploration, but you can kind of divide Tutuila in the north coast and the south coast using principal component analysis. The red here shows the northern coast. So they're kind of clustered in ordination space. Again, all the blues are the south coast. And then you have the different morphologies that correspond to different genera, different species of coral that show different, I guess, dominance or presence at these sites, whether you're on the north or south coast. Again, this is just kind of a rough estimate, just to see, before I throw in my wave energy data to see, how these different coral communities are partitioned in ordination space around the island. Again, asking the same question, I can just show a histogram here, and you can see that there's some more abundance and a little bit more diversity of the morphologies on the south coastline. Again, what is the difference between the north and southern coastline? I'm not sure yet. I don't know. I'm not going to know until I extract my wave energy data. Is there high wave energy in the north on the northern coast or the southern coast? I don't know yet. You would hypothesize that maybe because this is in the southern hemisphere, that a lot of the storms that roll off of Antarctica maybe cause higher wave energy in the southern coast. You can think of that in opposition to like isolated island in the northern hemisphere, like Hawaii, where you have most of your wave energy on the northern coastline. Again, all those storms rolling off of like the Arctic region and stuff like that. So my coral bleaching data. I said before that that reef building coral, these hermatotypic corals, have these endosymbiotic zooxanthellae, these microscopic dinoflagellates that live inside them that provide food. During stressful events like during the summer when the seawater temperatures rise, the coral host gets stressed out, and just a simplified explanation, they kind of kick out the zooxanthellae into the outer water column so that the zooxanthellae are free living now. The zooxanthellae give the coral host their color. So when the coral host doesn't have the zooxanthellae, the host turns white, and therefore you have coral bleaching. On the right-hand side, this is just a photo that I took from a previous research in Easter Island. And this shows that coral bleaching can happen on the same colony. You can have areas of the same colony that are bleached and non-bleached. So the second question that I'm aiming for graduate school is did the interaction of sea surface temperature and significant wave height affect the coral bleaching? Again, I don't have significant wave height right now, but I do have, or NOAA actually has sea surface temperature that they convert into degree heating weeks. Degree heating weeks is basically just a measure of the cumulative stress. It's like a cumulative stress index that measures like the historic sea surface temperature of a given area. So using ArcPro, there was some missing data. You can see the white cells here missing, so I had to do some interpolation, but I was able to get degree heating weeks for all of my shallow sites in 2015. On the x-axis here, I have all those 26 sites. Those were surveyed in chronological order between February 17th and March 30th. So as the summer is going along, as the water temperatures are getting hotter, you can see by the red dots that the degree heating weeks are actually increasing. So as the NOAA team, as the NOAA scientists were collecting this data, the water was getting hotter. The range of degree heating weeks at each site, I guess, somewhat similar. But if you look at, for example, like the first site versus the sixth site, a difference between 1 or 2 degrees heating weeks can actually have a profound effect on the degree of bleaching that a coral goes through, even though that may be species specific. So again, this range of degree heating weeks looks similar, but as I go through the rest of my data, I could see that these differences, that small differences in degree heating weeks actually have a profound effect on the bleaching. Again, even though I don't have significant wave height, I do have the bleaching data. I just showed you the degree heating weeks data. I also have the bleaching prevalence data, and I was able to divide that. I was able to look at the relationship between degree heating weeks and bleaching prevalence by genera, and you would expect that with higher degree heating weeks, with higher seawater temperature, that you'll have higher degrees of bleaching prevalence. Was that true? My initial data says kind of. Some of the coral did see a positive relationship. Some of them said no relationship. Again, I have to go through the wave height data and see, where the areas where there was more wave height, did that cool down the water to cause any sort of amelioration in the coral bleaching. So there's still a lot of work to do, but the good thing about this data set is there is data for the different ingredients, the wave height, the bleaching prevalence, and seawater temperature. So that is all for now. I should be finishing my master's in August, so I'll have more comprehensive results come the end of the summer. So please email me or get in touch if you want any follow-up on this project. And thank you for listening. I'll take questions if anybody has any.
All right, we have time for one question. Did you see any effects of size on bleaching in different coral colonies?
Sorry, say that again. The size of the corals?
Did you see any effect of size on bleaching incidents?
Man, I'm sorry. I'm getting a little bit of the bleaching incidents. I'm sorry. Can you repeat the first part of the question, though? I'm getting like
any differences in the sizes regarding bleaching in the different coral species?
Thank you.
Yeah. So the difference between the bleaching prevalence between the genera, between the species of coral, is that what you're asking?
More specifically, within a species, the different sizes of colonies.
Oh, sorry. So the actual size of the colonies. I'm sorry. I was given data for like maximum diameter. So that is a very good question. I can look at that. I haven't. What's interesting for me, I have kind of two different things going on. I have a coral health study, and then I also have like a population dynamic study going on, because I have coral cover, I have this maximum diameter, and then I have, bleaching incidents and all these sorts of things that happen with the disturbance. I'm really interested in seeing, once I have my wave energy data, summarized and formulated, I want to see how that affects where the different morphologies of the corals throughout the islands of American Samoa, where that thrives. Because you can kind of hypothesize that the different strengths of waves will actually act upon the different morphologies and affect those population dynamics. I kind of have two different projects going on here, but again, the main focus is the bleaching. I will definitely take a look at the size though and see if there's a difference.
Thank you.
All right, thank you once again to James.